The Candle of the Path of Allah, Sayyid Jawad Naqvi. وَلَا تَحْسَبَنَّ الَّذِينَ قُتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَمْوَاتًا بَلْ أَحْيَاءٌ عِندَ رَبِّهِمْ يُرْزَقُونَ. And reckon not those who are killed in Allah's way as dead, nay, they are alive and are provided sustenance from their Lord. Surah Al Imran, Ayah 169. Chapter 1, Death of a Nation, Ummah. Reality of Life and Death. The philosophy of martyrdom has mentioned in the divine words of the Holy Quran, which the Holy Infallibles have intercepted and explained to us in reality is the philosophy of religion and Islam. A human being who can understand the reality of martyrdom is the true clement of the understanding of the reality of religion, or has at least become capable of understanding the reality of religion. But for ordinary beings like us who do not understand the reality of death, it is difficult for us to understand the reality of martyrdom. We do not have any knowledge about the reality of death. Our life is evidence that we are not aware about the secret and reality behind death. In order to understand the meaning of life, the human being needs to first understand death because it is death that gives meaning to life. If the secret of death gets manifested in its true essence, then those who are afraid of death would turn to be its lovers. It is due to death that life moves from one stage to another stage, and we have been through a previous death before entering this world. We have come to life due to several deaths. If we would not have died before, we would not have been alive today. The Urdu language describes death in an excellent way as compared to other languages. In Urdu, death is referred to as intikal, which means to move. A human being moves due to death. Thus, death is not an end, it is movement from one state to another. We were in one state before birth and then we moved into this state of life, leaving the previous state behind. It was the death of the previous state that brought us to life in this state. We are victims of many misunderstandings that the Holy Quran has rectified. We have many incorrect imaginations, thoughts, and understandings in our minds, and we spend our entire lives under the shadow of these incorrect thoughts and understandings. The Quran has nullified many such misunderstandings that could potentially lead us towards destruction. As an example, many disputes between neighbors and family members are due to simple issues of misunderstandings of if these misunderstandings are eliminated, then these disputes would also get resolved. If one develops an incorrect image about someone, then this incorrect imagination gets nurtured and turns into disputes, resulting into separation of friends, brothers, family members, believers, and Muslims. The Holy Quran has made specific arrangements to rectify misunderstandings because These misunderstandings will drown and assassinate human beings. Amongst these misunderstandings is the misunderstanding about death and life. We consider death as destruction, whereas catting, drinking, walking, and reproduction are considered as life. The development of this high degree of misunderstanding inside the human being can result into his destruction. The Holy Quran rectified that life does not mean eating and drinking, and neither is death the end of heart beats. The Quran considers many who are living, walking, talking, and eating as dead. Whereas we have been ordered by the Quran to consider many whom we consider as dead to be alive. Thus, we know that we have a serious misunderstanding about death and life. The Holy Quran has expressed that we should not consider those who are eating and drinking as alive, and also we should not consider those whose neck has been cut, whose heart has been pierced with bullets, and whose heart beats have stopped as dead. In reality, when we see a person in such a state, we immediately term them as dead, to which the Quran comes forward and prompts with the phrase "Wala tahsabanna allazina qutilu." Do not even have a doubt when were these dead and when are those who are walking alive. Thus, first we should know the real meaning of life, the only we will understand death and thereafter the meaning of martyrdom. Three types of death and life. It is mentioned in a tradition that every human being dies three types of deaths, and in accordance to these three deaths, the human being lives three types of life. A human being has to live all three types of life simultaneously to be considered as alive, and if he dies all the three deaths, then he perishes. The three types of death and life are not sequential. He has to live all the three lives together. One type of death is the death of body, another death is the death of heart, and the third death is the social death. The death of body is the death that we normally see with our eyes on routine basis. The human body is made up of two things, the body and soul. The body is the materialistic part and soul is the non-materialistic part. Till the time the body and soul are associated with each other, this is the physical life of human being. The disconnection of soul from body results into death of body. This death is only the death of body and not of soul. The connection between the two is broken and body becomes dead, but the soul is still alive and enters a different state. Now let us understand the other type of death, which is the death of heart. It is possible that a human being is alive by body, whereby his body is performing all common acts like drinking, eating, sleeping, walking, reproducing, and is in action, but still his heart could be dead. The heart, our heart, does not mean the piece of flesh inside our chest that pumps blood. This is just termed as heart, but not the real heart. The function of this heart is that of a pump to circulate the blood in the veins. This piece of flesh just does its biological function, but it lacks any sense. The heart in reality is that of the soul and not that of body. We use these verses very often that my heart desires, my heart is not ready to accept it, etc. The heart in these verses is not the one behind the ribs, it is the heart of self, the heart of the soul. This heart inside the ribs has no relationship with the heart of the soul. If this heart of the body is functioning properly, then this does not mean that the heart of the soul is also healthy and alive. The heart, qalb of the soul also dies, and this death is the death of soul and self. The question is, when does this happen? When the connection between soul and body gets broken, it results into death of bodies. Similarly, the soul also dies when its connection with something else is disconnected. With whom is the soul connected? The disconnection of which results into its death. That is the same who says, فَإِذَا سَوَيْتَهُ وَنَفَخْتُ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحٍ. So when I have made him complete and breathed into him of my spirit. Surah Hijr 15 ayah 29. The Holy Prophet ﷺ has said in a tradition that the heart which has no remembrance of Allah dies. The body is alive and in motion, but the soul is dead. You would have seen the graveyards of bodies where the bodies of our elders, relatives, and brethren are buried. But when the soul or heart dies, then that also has a graveyard. The graveyard of soul is not the same as that of body. The body gets buried somewhere else and the soul somewhere else. The graveyard of the soul is where the soul and hearts are buried. The graveyard of soul is that house where there is play and amusement. It is that room where there is transgression and indecency, that locality, gathering, and majalis where there is no remembrance of Allah. These are the graveyards of heart and soul. With a person with no remembrance of Allah in his heart makes a house with income from bribes, thefts, and usurpation, is questioned on what he is making, his reply would be that I am making a house. But if you ask his soul what is being made, the soul will reply that my grave is being made. A dead body that is buried below tons of sand cannot come out, because when asked, he will say that I have loads of sand above me and I cannot come out of this. Thus, anyone who is buried under tons of burden, that burden in his graveyard. So if someone is asked to come towards Allah, and if he says that I am under the burden of work or household responsibilities or studies or other occupations, is in fact buried under a grave and he is not free. There are many who are happy that they have made luxurious life, but they do not realize that it makes no difference to a grave whether it is made of normal earth or of high quality marble. A grave is a grave irrespective of its external beauty. I went to a city where a youngster stood up and said that he cannot understand what I was saying, because to understand what was being said requires a lot of time. When we get up in the morning, we see the electricity bill on our door. Then in few days, gas bills, credit card bills, house bills, and towards the end of month, we are almost buried under the burden of bills, and hence we have no time for such kind of talks. It is like a dead person saying from his grave that I do not under I do not understand this Surah Al Fatiha you are reciting on my grave since I am under burden of sin. You will reply to him and say that the reason I am reciting this surah on your grave is to realize you from this burden. This surah is to relieve you not from the burden of sin but the burden of your sins. So I replied to this youngster by saying that my speech is to relieve you from the burden on your heart and life. Now, if you do not bury a dead body, it will develop a very bad smell. If out of attachment to a person who has died, a person delays the burials of the deceased and keeps his body inside his home. Then, in a few days, the body will start to release a bad smell, and this smell will start to spread out of the house, nearby homes. Then all over the locality and everyone inside and outside the home in the entire locality will be affected. Hence, we have been asked to bury the body as early as possible since it is better for the deceased as well as for us. Similarly, if a dead heart is not buried, then that also develops smell, and everyone inside the house, neighbors, and the locality are troubled by him. The death of the heart, as mentioned by the Quran, happens in stages. At the first stage, the heart gets diseased, then it gradually develops layers of fifth on it, then it gets locked and sealed. Eventually, this heart dies. A person whose body is alive yet his heart is dead is considered a lifeless person, a moving corpse. There is a third type of death as there is a third type of life. This third type of life and death is that of Ummah, nation. Ummah means a society and nation, the people amongst which a human being spends his life. One of the important aspects of life of human being is society. A human being lives the life of body, soul, as well as a social life. There are those whose bodies are alive, their hearts are also alive, and they are also socially alive. Yet there are also those whose bodies are alive and possibly their hearts are also alive, but they are socially dead. They have died the death of being an Ummah nation. They have died a social and communal death, and hence they are also like dead bodies moving in a society. Let me explain this to you with an example so that you may be able to grasp the concept comfortably.